Are you living in an HOA that's overbearing, crazy rules, breathes down your throat for everything? Or have you experienced that, worried about moving into an HOA like this? Well, there may be some relief. Some rules have changed and loosened the grip on homeowners. New HOA guidelines went into effect July 1st of 2024 that essentially limits what HOAs can do to their members, thus loosening their grip a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, HOAs are good. I live in an HOA. I don't disagree with HOAs. You know, their purpose is to maintain standards in the HOA, enforce the rules and regulations. These things are good because they keep your home values up. But sometimes there can be hiccups no matter how great the HOA is. Like my HOA right now is fantastic. The HOA I lived in before, not so much. I'm sure the board's changed, the management company I know has changed, but let's get into this. So what happens sometimes? We get an overzealous board member, some busybodies on the board, somebody who gets mad because something happened. Whatever the case is, it just happens. Or maybe it's not even the board members. Maybe, because they're volunteers, maybe it's the management company's not so great and they're getting some bad advice. Whatever the case is, there are times where you get that annoying letter. You left your trash can out too long. The rules and regulations aren't equally enforced. I hear that one a lot, that neighbor one had to fix something, but hey, look, neighbor two over here has the same thing. Why aren't you bothering that individual? Outdated rules and regulations, that's another big one. A lot of times the HOA rules and regulations just aren't keeping up with A, technology, and B, other state laws and federal laws and regulations. That's really on the management company to handle, but sometimes things do get overlooked. So in that situation, my recommendation is obviously be more proactive in your HOA and point it out and work with the HOA instead of fighting. Also, you can have some of these super restrictive HOAs. You can't have your trash can out before a certain time of day. You have to have it in by a certain time of day. You're not allowed to have pickup trucks. You're not allowed to have a motorcycle. Can't have your holiday lights out too long. You can only have a certain flag out. You can only have certain decorations inside, on your property. They can get quite extensive, and the HOAs do have a lot of power. One of the other big complaints that I see with the HOAs is forcing you to purchase certain items. So for instance, in my neighborhood, we all have the same mailboxes. So we have to order them through the HOA, and they're not too bad. A little pricey, but again, we got a nice mailbox. It's metal. It's not the end of the world, so we order it. Somebody comes out and puts it in for us. We don't have to deal with it, and I'm thankful for that, to be quite honest. Now, on the other side, a friend of mine lives in an HOA, same thing, uniform mailboxes, uniform letters. So he got a letter from the HOA that said, you've got to change out your mailbox numbers. They're looking a little rough. Okay, no problem. He happens to have a printing company as well. So he printed off his letters. They're just standard vinyl letters. And he saved himself approximately $80 by doing it. And we're only talking 4 numbers on each side of the little post that are about 2.5 inches tall and maybe 8 inches long of vinyl, like decal sticker. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, commercially bought. The font is a standard commercial font. The HOA said, no, you have to purchase them through us. Come to find out, one of the board members owns the company that you have to use to purchase the numbers. And I just don't think that's appropriate. I think you should have to disclose that. Even as a realtor, if I have a vested interest in a property, for instance, if I was maybe selling a family member's property or a property that I own, I legally have to disclose that to you, that I stand to benefit from this. Those are some of the things that I've heard about. Share with me what you've experienced with HOAs, good and bad. Leave a comment below, I appreciate it. And while you're there, if you don't mind, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll keep doing these videos. I appreciate it. So let's talk about what has changed for HOAs. And some of this I think is good, and some of this I don't necessarily agree with, and I think the pendulum swung too far to the other side. So here's a synopsis of some of the changes that took place this year and a few that took place last year, but have been amended and updated for this year. House Bill 919. Basically, this is the Homeowners Bill of Rights. And if you haven't taken the time to read this, I would recommend highly that you do. There's a lot of good information in there about what can and can't happen in an HOA and how the rules and regulations are done. So give that one a quick read. But here's the main that's changed recently. HOA board members used to be able to fine HOA members for not complying with their rules and regulations. So that's the letter you get in the mail. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know about that, or you got fined. And you're like, I never even got a letter that said my mailbox was dirty, as an example, or my driveway was overly dirty. And you didn't clean it within the 2-week time period, and now you've got a fine on top of it. So you've got to clean it and you have to pay a fine. Well, this addresses that. HOA members in Florida cannot be fined or suspended for violating association bylaws or rules unless a 2-week notice is delivered to the member's email or mailing address in the HOA's official records. Now, that makes sense. And I do like that, because nobody likes, like I said, nobody likes to get that letter that says you got a fine and you didn't even know about it. I did a little quick digging, and this is nothing against the Postal Service. The sheer volume of mail that goes out on a day-to-day basis is insane. But I found a couple articles that suggested that approximately 1.7 million packages are lost and destroyed every single day. And who's to say that one of those letters wasn't one of those 1.7 some odd million letters that gets lost or destroyed, or even delayed in delivery? Nothing's infallible, obviously, but this will help, I think. The next one up is House Bill 949. This applies to communities like mine and a lot of communities here in Florida that have golf carts. And I love the golf carts. I think it's great. But as you saw maybe behind me, that's our main drag, and the speed limit's 30 miles an hour. So depending on the jurisdiction you're in, you have to have your vehicle registered, your golf cart or golf car registered, headlights, taillights, brakes, the whole shebang. And we're not talking the standard, when I go out to the golf course and attempt to play golf and I'm driving the golf cart around. These vehicles they're high tech. You've probably seen them. It's a popular thing now, at least here in my area. And they're fast. I mean, some of these things do 35, 45 miles an hour. So you're basically driving a vehicle, and you consistently see younger and younger people driving them because in their heads, it's a golf cart. So what's the harm? But like I said, these things, they're like vehicles, and this law addresses that. You got to have a learner's permit or be at least 18 years of age to drive a golf cart on some of these, roads. Different rules and regulations apply, so there might be some areas where that rule doesn't, or that law doesn't apply, but in general, you've got to be 18. This is for safety, and I agree with that. Bill 437, this is a big one. This one grants homeowners greater autonomy over their property by limiting the HOA's ability to personalize your home front, storing items in your backyard, etc. So as an example, if you maybe have a small boat or a jet ski, a trampoline, vegetable garden, as long as it is not visible from the front, side, or maybe an open frontage in the rear, meaning, like, let's say you have a golf course, you live in a golf course community, you have a golf course behind you, and people from the golf course can see to your backyard. That would be one of those exclusionary items. You can't have stuff, but as long as it's not visible and it doesn't disrupt the aesthetic harmony of the community, the HOA can't deal with it anymore. They can't fine you for it. They can't tell you no. I heard rules and rumors and stuff just in my travels. HOAs were supposedly flying drones over people's houses and being like, oh, you've got this back there, or a clothesline, or you've got to get that out, and they've got a 6-foot PVC vinyl fence. Those days are supposedly over. So let's see what happens there. A couple other little things that I think are really good when it comes to these new rules is HOAs with 100 or more parcels must have a website, and the new law provides that the documents, your covenants, rules, and restrictions, CCRs, must be available for download on that website. I think that's fantastic. I can't tell you how many times I've tried when we're listing a property or we're purchasing a property that we have to pay for the rules and regulations in the HOA. This is where I was kind of talking about, technology is caught up. I totally get it if you've got to print it out, because I want to read the HOA rules as an example. I shouldn't have to, the HOA and the members of the HOA shouldn't have to front the bill for that. But we're in the digital age, and we have been for a really long time. So it's nice. Lexington Oaks is an example here in Wesley Chapel. They've got an amazing website, have forever, and their rules and regulations are right there. So I just download the updated stuff and we're good to go. It's very simple. It keeps streamlined. It takes the load off of the management company asking for those things all the time, or they provide a portal. Either way, it's a good thing. Also, before October 1 of 2024, all HOAs must provide either a physical or digital copy of the association's covenants and rules to each member. So hopefully we're all going to start getting digital copies or access to digital copies to download. My neighborhood, you just log in on our website and you can download whatever you want. There's all kinds of stuff, in there. Here's another one. Pickup trucks cannot be prohibited from being parked in the owner's driveways. And not just that, some HOAs prohibited vehicles from being parked in their driveways, period. My neighborhood's actually one of those. If you have the ability to park in your garage, you must do it. You cannot leave your vehicle in the driveway overnight. I don't necessarily agree with this. So let's say I have a vehicle, my spouse has a vehicle, and eventually the kids are going to have a vehicle. So this is why in my neighborhood, at least it makes sense. If you have the ability to park in there, you do. So when the kids get older and they have vehicles, 2 vehicles in the garage, 1 vehicle in the driveway. Makes sense. At least it's a caveat that works. However, there's also another rule, and it pertains to trucks in general and commercial vehicles. So one of the other issues with this is HOAs restricted commercial vehicles from being in the driveways. This is the part where I kind of have mixed feelings on. I don't disagree with it because I don't want to see commercial vehicles, but what is a commercial vehicle? I have an F-250 and people said that was a commercial vehicle. I have an F-150 now. People say that's a commercial vehicle. There's no letters on it, none of that stuff. But according to the DOT and this new rule, a commercial vehicle is, the very rough definition, is a vehicle that's 26,000 pounds or above, or let's say a box truck that's only got 2 seats and it doesn't have necessarily a passenger compartment. Another thing is HOAs can no longer enforce the rule of not having letters on your vehicle for, let's say you are a home inspection company and you've got the name of your home inspection company on the back window of your vehicle. Where those door magnets, or you're a realtor and you've got door magnets, AC repair guy, lawn guy, whatever the case is. HOAs can't restrict you from having those letters on the vehicles anymore. That's one that I have mixed feelings on, but this is where I think the rule went a little bit too far. And it says that basically, even if, let's say I had a ladder rack on my truck and a full-on tool system in the back, etc., the HOA can't do anything about it. Like I said, let me know what you think on that one. That's kind of a mixed bag, and I think the pendulum swung a little bit too far to the other side on that rule. homeowners association documents may not preclude the property owner from hiring a contractor or a service provider that doesn't have a license or an occupational license or a certification. An example of this would be a home services company for maybe somebody who needs help hanging some pictures, putting up, changing light bulbs that are, maybe you got a 12-foot ceiling or something. They're a little bit older, or they just don't have the tools, time, or equipment to, go buy the ladder, climb up there, change things out, change AC vents, whatever the case is. We're talking stuff that's not licensed, not regulated, not controlled. Clean your gutters out type stuff, sweep the driveway, general maintenance type things, clean your windows. We don't have a license for that here. Maybe in other states you do, but here in Florida, we don't have a license for that, at least not in the Tri-County, Tampa Bay area. So HOAs, you go through the guard gate, and you used to say no because you don't have an OC license. They can't do that anymore. They can't tell me that I can't hire somebody to come over and help me do something. So that, I think, is a really good one because there are quite a few communities that did that. Now, there's a couple caveats to this, and I think it's very interesting how HOAs have come out on the news and said, I don't care what this says, too bad. We've contacted our lawyer, and they said that we don't have to comply with these things. Okay, I get it. This hasn't been tested in court yet. There's really not been too many discussions on it, period. So in one article, the HOA said, nope, we don't allow pickup trucks, and you're still gonna have to park your pickup truck somewhere else, despite what this new law/rule says, until it gets hashed out. There was another one there was an attorney on one of the local news channels, and it said that there's, and I'm ad-libbing here, but there's some language in contracts that don't allow for changes without a vote. And so this might not hold up. And then they've also discussed that these things may not be retroactive, meaning that it's only for new rule creation. So we'll have to see how that kind of pans out and what happens. But at the end of the day, whether you live in an HOA or you're moving into an HOA, please make sure you read the rules and regulations. I can't tell you how many of my customers don't read them, even though I send it to them. I do my best to read through all of them, but sometimes there's a lot. And at the end of the day, it's your responsibility to know what you're allowed to do and not to do. The last thing you want to have happen is you move into a neighborhood that doesn't allow motorcycles, as an example, and that's what you ride every day, and you can't bring it home. Or in the example that was on the news a few weeks ago, that the individual had a pickup truck. He wasn't allowed to bring it home. So he has to pay for a storage place and then swap vehicles, or a family member, or he has to get a ride home somehow. Hey, you don't want to deal with that. That's a pain. So let me know what you think on this. Let me know what any crazy rules that you may have in one of your HOAs. But that's today's video. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. See you on the next one.